Hello, everybody. It's really a pleasure, a privilege to be here to bring to you today this recording. With me is an adorable princess. Her name is Chimamaka Ige. I've only known her for maybe about 3 to 4 months, but I feel very knitted with her in my soul. And I'm excited that she's agreed to do this with me. Chimamaka Ige is she is a bundle of talents, of virtue, and of excellence. She is one person that, as some of you may get to know later on, she's a person that follows through, and she's very, very diligent. That's my personal observation. And she also has a heart after the Father. So the combination in itself is like boom, boom, boom. It's a powerful combination. Chimamaka lost her dad, and she's going to tell you about it. She lost her dad tragically, and some years after also lost her mom. We're doing this interview today in the context of helping somebody who may have gone through a tragedy or multiple tragedies like Chimamaka, but also we're doing it to celebrate the lives of her parents, which today, August 22nd, happens to be the anniversary of one of them's passing. So it's ironic, isn't it? We are talking about the loss, but we're celebrating life. So
exactly.
My name is Fumi Ayowole, your soul coach, and I present to you Chimamaka Ige. Thank you so much, Chimamaka, for joining me. Welcome.
Good evening. Hi, hello everyone. Wow. Yes, we're doing this. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for your exceptionally kind words. God bless you. Like Fumi said, we've known each other for a short period, but I would say that one thing that struck me about her is the commitment she has to the work she does. Not helping, supporting people through pain and emotional pain isn't the easiest job, because at some point it seems you almost take on how they feel, and that's the uniqueness of this kind of work. To help them through it, you almost have to step into it with the person to really empathize and walk them through. So for me, God bless you. I remember saying to you one of the first times we spoke that you do an exceptional work, very similar to what the Holy Spirit does. And I have no doubt whatsoever that He empowers you and He continues to bless you and grace you for this work. Thank you for having me. Thank you for thank you for having me. Thank you for having all that comes with me. It's a pleasure to be here again. Yes.
All right. So to give our listeners some context, can you give me a brief rundown about what happened with losing your dad and also losing your mom? Okay. Let's start from there.
Okay, so December 25th, 2011. Yes, Christmas Day. That's the interesting part. The morning, very early hours of the morning, my brother woke me up. I have an older brother, so my older brother wakes me. They're clearly saying that there were people at our house. We just were hearing noise of some sort. But to save everyone the gory details, right? Some group of men broke into our home, and my dad was murdered with multiple stab wounds to his chest and back. Where my family is a was a pretty small family. So father, mother, and 2 children. So again, you can understand that we're very close knit because it's just 4 of us. So obviously, my brother also got hurt in the process trying to defend my mom and I. But he's alive, he's well, we thank God for that. After the incident, in that moment, I ran in to see my father because he never came out. My mom did, but he didn't. And he was just slumped to the wall. I don't know if you want me to give the detail because it's a little okay. So he had wounds to his chest, mostly he was without a shirt, so to his chest, to his neck, the back of his neck to be precise. So like between his neck and his spine, see a number there. And I mean, I had known my father all my life, I could see life ebbing away from him. So I held him and, I held him. I tried to support his head upwards because his neck was like drooling and his tongue was almost out. But yeah, I mean, I knew he was going. I mean, like I watched TV and I know what, death is, right? So we got ready. My brother and my mom headed out to take him to hospital. We had someone who used to stay with us, like a family friend. Well, I didn't grow up in a household. We don't describe those who live with us as, with the usual terms. So we just had a support staff. The role she played was a support staff, but she's a member of my family. That's how we were raised. So herself and me were at home while my brother and my mom went to hospital. So our neighbor, it was quite dramatic. My the security man in the premises we lived was tied up. Our neighbor apparently had been tied up as well because they first went into his thinking it was ours. So he got free and then he came to help, get my dad into the car. We just tried to get him dressed to be like, just put some clothes on him. My brother and my mom drove to about 3 different hospitals. By the time they got to the last one, he no longer had a pulse. So that's kind of, the detail. In fact, in that moment, right, my brother didn't even realize that he was hurt. Of course, between adrenaline and just trying to do something in that moment. It was when they got to the last hospital that they noticed a lot of blood on his white shirt, his white innerwear, and like the nurse said, "Oh, this can't be. All of this cannot be from your dad. Like it's not possible. If you say you've been carried in this way." That was when they checked him. He had I think 2 to his chest, 2 stabs to his chest, and 3 to his chest and 2 to his arm. And then he got some treatment at that point. So that's how my dad passed. My dad was murdered on Christmas morning of 2011.
Did they ever find the people, the armed robbers?
Well, one got hurt because that's how my brother got hurt. My brother engaged with him in trying to protect my mom and I. So I reckon we found 1 or 2, I think. There was a court date fixed, even though we know the way the justice system here works. It was quite a dramatic process. that was another kettle of fish. Let's just put it that way, trying to get justice and all of that. But yes, we did. And the truth is, so the state, I mean, he was prosecuted by the state and all of that. And I reckon I didn't go for any of those. It was way too much for me. But we had a family friend who went along with a lawyer representing the family. My mom also got hurt in this process. So when they broke into the house, the burglary, the security things at the window, much earlier in my mom's life, she had really bad accident. So when they came into the house, they used the metal on her knee. So obviously the days afterwards were also, trying to sort out my dad's mortuary. My brother was on daily injections and medication for the stab wounds, and my mom also had to be in hospital every single day. So my dad passed all right, but for the next week or so, my brother and my mom had to be in hospital every single day. So my brother also had an injury on his palm, I think. So of course, going daily dressings, injections, medicine. My mom wasn't sleeping, so she also had to be medicated to sleep. So someone had to come give her an injection each day to get her to sleep. We also had to move homes. We couldn't sleep at our house anymore because my dad's blood was on the walls. My brother's was on another part of the house. So yeah.
This was quite a traumatic experience for you, Chimamaka.
Yes, it was.
Between 2001 and let's say
2011.
2011.
Mm-hmm.
And now, can you identify a point where you felt a reduction in the heartache?
Oh yes. I mean, it's 10 years this Christmas. So, okay, I'll walk you through my mom's, but I'll answer your question first.
Okay.
Reduction. I think I would say the point where I kind of crossed to admitting I was in pain. I know that may not sound like a reduction, but it was a major milestone for me. So my dad passed 2011, 2012. I was in Nigeria 2013. I went away to school in Manchester. And 2014, while in England, I joined a certain church. It's called King's Church, Manchester. And we went away. The church had this camp weekend. I think it was Easter or something. So my friend I had just started attending the church, but my friend had been attending. My friend and housemate Adisua had been attending longer than I had. So she convinced me and we both went away for this camp meeting. It was called Big Church Weekend. Can never forget it. And that meeting, something happened to me. I can't really say what it was, but for the first time, I admitted to myself, maybe not to other people, to myself. Well, mostly to myself was the biggest deal, because if I couldn't even admit it to myself, there was no way I was going to admit it to other people. So I admitted that I was in pain. I admitted that I was exhausted. I was emotionally exhausted. It seemed like I had been carrying on so much, in that time. I mean, like I said, my mom and my brother were injured. So there was no time to stop and
comfort yourselves.
Yes, to stop and feel. So I just went into, I didn't have any physical injury. And it was also easy to look past me because I didn't have any physical injury, right? My mom did, my brother did. My mom is the wife of the deceased. My brother is the son. I'm Igbo. So, of course, my culture and male children, there's just such a focus on them. So my mom and my brother were like the hero and heroine of the story. So, yeah, I think that was the first time I admitted to myself that I was carrying on so much and I was tired. I was truly exhausted. So yes, I would say 2014 now marked a realization of some sort. As the years have gone by, have I felt better? Has the pain kind of like been, eased? Yes. I would say that God has done an exceptional work that I can never explain when it happened. But last Christmas. So usually I'm married now, and usually every Christmas we spend with my husband's family, which is like a tradition that I absolutely love. It's a big family. We're all very boisterous. Everyone comes with, their spouse, their kids. It's like a big family reunion. So usually, I dreaded Christmas Day. And this is not even I don't like Christmas situation. No, I would never say that. But I dreaded Christmas. By the 20th, I was like, oh my God, okay.
The tension would have been building.
Yeah, I literally start to tense up, like my physical body starts to, I can do this, I can do, like I have to start counting down. And the ironic thing was, so my dad passed 2011. In the next year, my mom, my brother, and I, we made sure, in fact, we promised ourselves that every Christmas we would not be in Nigeria. We would find a place to go away to. We'll find a place to go away to. So that year we were not around, nothing, I don't remember anything significant happened. But the next year, same, not Christmas Day, but I think a few days before or after, I'm not sure now, I think just after Christmas, or 26th, yes. I was with my friend Tosin Shola, and my mom rang saying that my brother had been in an accident. I froze. We were in the shop, and in a grocery store. We were both doing our masters at the same time, but we're in different cities. So I was with her. She insisted that I come be with her for Christmas because she knew, how Christmas is for me. And I remember that I was holding a jar, a can of milk, a jar of milk. And I didn't realize that I was holding it so firmly during that call that by the time I let it go, it literally burst. Like it's a poof. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. Like everyone in the store was just staring at me, like, because we're like almost by the till. Like you literally
squeeze a jar of milk.
Like, who are you? Are you like Wonder Woman or something? But that was how much tension I had on the inside, and I didn't even shed a tear. So that's another thing. It was always I've never been one who's overtly emotional. So even in dealing with pain, I'm not the first to express and say, oh, I'm in pain or something's paining me. In fact, I just see it as, like you should be able to, people should be able to man up and just suck it up. But, I've learned better. I know better now. So, yeah, I don't know if I've answered the question. I feel like I haven't really hit the nail on the head. But
question for you.
Yeah.
When you heard that your brother had been in an accident on the 26th, a day after the anniversary of your dad's death, and you had dropped the phone, what were the feelings or the thoughts that were running through your mind at that point?
Oh, that was easy. It was like we're haunted. Something bad is going to happen every Christmas. Like it was official, right? So, like I said, from the 20th, I'm on high alert. Like, I'm a Christian, so I'm like, hey, blood of Jesus, I'm praying. Of course, I grew up here in Nigeria, so it's like, when things happen and they validate things you've heard but you've never believed, like, oh, ember months, something will happen. Then now my family, like, we had a black curse on us, like, oh my God, Christmas will just never be peaceful or be loving or be anything. It was just like, oh my God. My brother is my only sibling, so I was just like, God. I remember saying to a friend of mine one time that I once said to God, if I, like, legit, no jokes, I once said to God, if I've offended you in a previous life, so that was 2016, 2012, 2013, 14, I don't even know. In fact, it's not just me, even my brother from Christmas like this. Like, in fact, if he could, he would. I think there was this year he tried to even take leave from work, so he didn't have to leave his house. Like, just be indoors, do nothing. But yeah, that was the dominant thought that usually crossed my mind. There was I wouldn't even say a niggling sense of fear. There's a scripture that says, I will be with you always. It was like, fear was with me always. So yeah, that would be the emotion. It was just that fear, never knowing. Yes, dread, never knowing. If a phone call came, so I'll be wondering, like, you have to lay it on me. Don't hello, yes, what is it? Don't be hello, and what's going on? Yeah, so I would say that's it.
Tell us about your mom's passing.
That one. I'll start from the day leading up to that morning. My dad passed on a Sunday morning, and my mom passed on a Sunday morning. My mom passed 21st August 2016. So today is Sunday. So today is like splat, but calendar-wise it was yesterday, but today is splat on the money. The day before, my friends and I run a fellowship, the Young Women Fellowship. So the day before, Saturday, we had a meeting at my house. We used to use my house. My mom and I lived together. My brother was already married at this time. So we had the meeting. I had a family friend over who came to spend the night. She was heavily pregnant, so she came to spend some time with my mom before. Then my friends, we finished fellowship, my friends left, and my parents were more or less pastors, so my house is like our house. Then my brother came by to just spend some time with my mom. My mom and my brother we're close in family, so I'm close to my mom, my brother close to my mom, but my mom and my brother are like super close.
Like boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah, like if they quarrel, and they can quarrel, but don't you dare put your mouth in that, because see, you will be the victim. I guarantee you. You will be, oh God, just let them shout their shouts. Give them another. You can't reach 1 hour. I'm not like I'm not. You can't reach. You will see them hugging. Oh, I'm just, what's wrong with all of you? Oh God, please. So yeah, he came over to visit, spent some time with her. The house was, we had people in and out that day. My friend Bisola was also over. In fact, Bisola stayed till very late that night. And my mom, my family friend who was pregnant, left about 4 or 5-ish that evening. It was just me, my mom, and then my friend Bisola. So my mom insisted that evening, there was no power. We're going to put on the gym. She said no, I don't know why. But then she insisted that Bisola take me to go and buy plantain, which was absolutely random. But it's my mother, right? So of course, and Bisola has it. Let me just say, my mom was also Bisola's mom. We're more like sisters, so we share mom. We share moms. And my mom insisted, I was like, it's no big deal, because she lived quite far away. So I lived in Ikeja, and at the time, Bisola lived in Bega, which is quite, I don't know, my sense of kilometers is broken. My husband is my GPS, but it's quite far. So if I had to put a time to it without traffic, roughly maybe like a 45-minute drive, right? So I didn't see what the force was, but we did what she wanted. When she came back, Bisola dropped me off, and she insisted she came back upstairs to say bye to her, which was like, there's no need. She just told you bye. We've been away for less than 10 minutes to go and buy this thing you wanted, which was like down my street, and then you still want her to come back. Seriously. I mean, she'd been at my house since 10 a.m. that morning, and this was 8 p.m. What more do you want? But she was quite insistent. So Bisola came up, they hugged, she prayed for her, prayed for me, then prayed for both of us. And then, we were contemplating. I had been ill earlier that week. So we're contemplating if we're going to go to church the next day or if we're not going to go to church. And she said she was also quite tired. So we're like, you know what, maybe we'll wake up and do online service, or let's just play it by the ear. And then in the morning, I literally jumped up from bed because we would usually go for a 7 a.m. service. Then I woke up at like 6, maybe 6 something. I was like, oh my, like almost 6:30 or 6:40, but it was almost 7 o'clock. I don't remember the exact time now. And I was like, oh my God, because my mom is such a stickler for time. So 7 a.m. service, she wants to be seated. Not that she's walking into church. She wants to be seated at 6:50. I'm like, are you the pastor? But, and then I said, Mom, I tried calling out to her. Our rooms were across the hall from each other, but it's not such a long hallway. She didn't respond, which is weird because my mom wakes up on the average, not average, like on a daily basis at 4 a.m. That's the day, that's like typical wake up time. So I was like, that's strange. So got to my room, got to her room. She left my room, got to her room. And as I opened the door, I saw the way her neck was. So she was sat up in her bed, but her neck was hanging funny. And I knew. Remember, I had seen my dad, so I knew. And heck, I watched crime drama I've broken that addiction. But I don't think there's any crime drama on DSTV in Nigeria that I have not watched. It's not possible. Except they just started. It's not possible. So I knew. And, in that moment, I was like, God, no. This is all I have left. No. But I went close. I went to her. The first thing I did, she was already cold, right? So I knew. I wouldn't say I was calm. No, I wasn't. I was momentarily panicked. It was because it was just me at home. And I literally spoke to myself. I'm like, Chimamaka, you need to calm down. Okay, so what do we need to do? All right. So I adjusted her. In fact, I prayed. The first thing I did was pray. I prayed. I got a bottle of anointing oil. I anointed her. And then I, pushed her down the bed, made sure her head was resting right. Picked up my phone was flat because there was no power from the day before, but there was power on her phone. Her battery was charged. So I picked up her phone. I called my brother immediately. Home for me was Ikeja. My brother still lives in Lekki. So called him and said, I think my words were, Mommy didn't wake up. And he was like, what does that mean? I'm like, exactly what you think it means. He's like, I don't know what you mean. I'm like, yo, guy, what I said is what I mean. Get here. By the time you get here, I'll be at XY hospital, which is the hospital we used to use. So get here. Goodbye. I thought to myself, what do I need to do? I need to take her to hospital. I'm not going to, my mom didn't own a car because she always got driven by one person or the other, right? And I just thought, there's no need booking Uber. In fact, Uber wasn't as popular. It existed. But okay, I need someone trustworthy. I need someone who's close. So I called a particular family friend whose church was like less than 5 minutes away from my house. So I called her and I said, I need to get my mom to the hospital now. She's like, what's going on? I said, get here first and we'll take it from there. Before she got there, I made sure I dressed my mom up properly because she was in her nightgown. So I just wore her like trousers beneath. That was hard, but I did it. Got her hospital card, made sure there was her bank cards were with me and her mobile phone, because my phone was flat. And yeah, and when my family friend arrived, I had opened the front door. So she just said, oh, I'm in mommy's room. So before she entered, I told her, I said, Mommy has passed and I need you to be calm. I do not need drama. I need your head straight. Clear? Clear. Okay. So she, of course, she got into the room and she fell. She just
Collapse.
yeah, that I don't even know the words. Like she fell like a pack of cards. Like she just boom on the ground. And I'm like, okay. I mean, she cried. She was screaming. She was supposed to see my mom the day before, but then she said she was at a wedding. So she was screaming. It was a whole other point of trying to get her to calm down. Then I went downstairs. I got two of my neighbors because we couldn't carry her. We lived upstairs. I couldn't carry her, so carried a pillow, put her in the back seat of the car, put the pillow on my lap, put her neck on my lap, and we drove to the hospital. My neighbors were crying, and I was just like, I didn't even cry at this point. So we got to the hospital, did whatever. I mean, they used I hope I pronounce it right, the defibrillator, shockingly. But I mean, there was
the one that they do in the movies that it goes.
Yeah, the one they do in the movies.
Boom.
Exactly. You did that. But again, like I said, for me, I knew. So, but I wanted to do everything possible. Every single thing possible. So I got to the hospital. They did that. They did the first time, they did the second time, they did the third time. And, the doctor kept looking at me like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Go on. And he's like, usually people don't want to see us do this. I'm like, no, I need to see every single thing you're doing to my mother. She's my mother. Like, I want to know what you're doing. So at this time, so all of that, nothing. So they put us in a ward, which is kind of like maybe towards the exit of the hospital, so nobody would know. My brother arrived with his wife. My brother and his wife had just had a baby about 3 months before. In fact, their baby wasn't 3 months just yet. My brother's eyes were blood red. He had cried from the drive from his home to the hospital. And this time I called some other people. I called my mom's brother. I don't know how I was thinking, but my brain was clearly working. I called my friend Bisola. I called my friend Tosin Sani. Yeah, pretty much. And I called, my mom used to run a women fellowship, so I called her assistant to meet us up at the hospital. I didn't even tell her anything. I just said my mom was at the hospital. She needs to come. Which hospital? I told her. She also passed out. More like not fainted, but she also collapsed. In fact, hers was bad at the gate because when she drove in, she saw people and she's like, what's going on? And someone was trying to say, calm down. She's like, what? So yeah, that was my mom's passing in quick summary.
When was the first time that you cried? After
my mom
passing, yes.
I'm not quite sure now. Hold on, I should remember. Yeah, that night. So after the hospital, we had some drama, people coming through, everybody wanting to pray. Good drama, right? But then mortuary. We had done this with my dad, my brother in particular, because my mom was alive then, so he had my brother handle the initial bits. But this time around, I was very hands-on, so I knew what mortuary I wanted her at. So took her to the mortuary, signed up the paperwork, and yeah, okay. So so from the hospital, went to my mom's office before we went to the mortuary because we needed to confirm there was, we could take her to that mortuary and do some other things. So in that time, I also called a member of my father's family. My father had passed away. Culturally, that's what we're supposed to do. So I called. In this time, I used to stay with my aunt who lived in Lekki because of work. I used to work in VI. So I only used to go home weekends. But then my mom was also on the island a lot. So I called my auntie Uche. I'm sure she's going to listen to this podcast and she's going to cry. I love you, Auntie Uche. I didn't tell her I'm doing this. Anyway, so I called her. She showed up with her husband. I called a member of my dad's family. My mom's sisters lived in Lagos. I called them as well. Pretty much the yard was full. Like everyone who needed to have that information got it that day. I called my employer. So I called my boss at the time. And I don't even remember how I remembered her number. But I basically I remember myself trying to remember her phone number. And I literally, my brother was saying, we can find it. I'm like, no, just give me a minute. And I literally was replaying 3, 4, and changing number combinations in my head, my eyes closed. And I said, I've got it. This, and dial it. And it was her. Then everyone around me was just like, you are not normal. How? In the midst of everything going on. So I rang her and she was like, she kept saying, what are you saying? Chimamaka, what are you saying? I'm like, you heard me right, ma. She's like, no, we spoke about your mother on Friday. You left work on Friday. How? I'm like, well, I can't really give you details now, but I won't be into work on Monday. And she's like, oh no, take all the time you need, but we'll speak again. So I said yes. Then mortuary, and then after everything, from the mortuary, we said thank you to everyone for showing up. We're going home. So my brother drove in his car. I went with my aunt in her car. I went home to my auntie's house. And my friend Tosin Ishola came by that night. In fact, she came by in such a rush that she forgot to take anything, realizing that she would be sleeping over. She just came with herself. And again, remember, my friends had been over Saturday morning. And in fact, this Tosin friend of mine gifted my mom a blouse. She had started a traditional print wear brand. And she had, my mom, in fact, she had gifted my mom one, and my mom was very specific on the color she wanted. And so my friend couldn't process that I had just seen this woman yesterday. So I think that was where I cried. We were together in my room at my auntie's, and we both cried. We cried. I'm not sure I slept for more than 2-3 hours that day, but the most part of the night into the morning, because we got home very late. We got home maybe 11ish. My auntie tried to get me to eat, which would have been my first meal in that day, but that wasn't even enough, sure. And my friend Tosin arrived, then we talked, we cried, we prayed. She prayed, I was quiet. After that day, I don't remember crying till burial. Like I said, it takes me a bit to process my emotions. It used to take me a bit. Yeah.
What would you say is the hardest part of not having both of your parents?
The hardest part. So, well, my brother and I were raised very independent, meaning that, like I said, we're a close-knit family, and I didn't grow up with, depending on an uncle, calling an auntie, somebody a cousin. No, I didn't grow up like that. Like my brother and I both started doing business from when we were in university, undergrad. It was like normal because my both parents were entrepreneurs, right? So it wasn't just normal. It just happened. It was normal. So if I think now, for my dad, the last 10 years, not having my father. I would say it's my brother and I have had milestones in our lives. So when my brother got married, having to sort of try to dance around relatives because your father isn't there. yeah, we did that a bit for my brothers, and that was just a line I wasn't even going to toe when I was getting married. I tried to be nice, but they didn't play ball. So we moved on. For me, for losing with my mom, I would say every day. I know that sounds cliche, but my mother was just a force of nature. That's the best way I can describe her. My mother's name was Lois, and that's the best way I can describe her. She's just Lois. So if you needed something, if you thought about something and you needed someone to kind of fact check that your thought process, my mother. If you were wondering if you could do something and you needed encouragement, my mother. If you were broke and you needed money, my mother. If you felt like, you were in the pit spiritually, my mother. If you wondered how to raise a child, my mother, because she raised us and she had, and she had a school. You're wondering how to give counsel, my mother. You're wondering how to start a business, my mother. She ran a series of things. You're wondering how to, whatever. She's just a force. Whatever it is that, and this is even not just for us, right? Like now, up until, in fact, this is August. Last month, I randomly went somewhere and someone was telling me of an experience she had with my mom in 2010. I'm like, how is that even possible? In this whole Lagos, like how? But yeah, so with my mom, just then when I was pregnant, God, it was hard. Like I wouldn't say I was fearful, but I was concerned. I just wondered how I would go through that season without her, because of how I had seen her be there for my brother and his wife when they had their baby. So yeah, I would say, but with my father, I think it's been 10 years, and I think I've learned to, because when he passed, there was my mom, and she kind of embodied, being both parents. So his was easier to deal with not being there because she was there. She was just like, my mom was like a rock. Like, no way, you can't reach my children. I'm here, and I'm here. So yeah. But now her not being here, that was a different ballgame. My first Christmas was 2016 without my good parents. Wow, that was a rough year. I wouldn't even say it was a rough day. It was a rough leading up to the day and the following days. But still, I would think of that year 2016 as one of the year I kind of made the most progress in that Christmas. I went to church for the first time in 5 years. I never went near church on Christmas Day. It was just no. Yeah. So I went to church first time. I cried before I went to church. I cried at church. I cried after church. I cried for the rest of the day. My friend Bisola was with me. In fact, I checked myself into a hotel so that nobody could tell me I was anything too much. I was in my own space that I paid for, with the person I wanted. My friend Bisola was with me through this, and nobody could judge me for how I was feeling. So, yeah. But I still think of that year as a breakthrough. It was a breakthrough for many reasons for me. I went to church. I did what I wanted, not what I was feeling. So before my dad passed, Christmas was and still is a big deal. I grew up with Christmas being a big deal. So people were always at our house, and we always gifted people for Christmas. In fact, that was what my dad spent the 24th doing. So it was hard for people to process that he had passed away on the 25th, because people kept saying, oh, he was at my house, he gave me a goat. Oh, he was at my house, he gave me chicken. Oh, he was at my house, he bought me perfume. So my family, we like give gifts for Christmas. It's the way we were raised. So in 2016, I checked myself into the hotel, all right. I also went shopping. I think I had done some shopping beforehand, but I also went shopping that day afterwards, after my crying spree. Bought a few things. I made sure I didn't go to anybody's house so that nobody could ask me to sit down, ask me how I'm feeling. No. My auntie and her family were coming from church when I rang her. I'm like, great, I'm at the mall. Just swerve past. Excuse me. She's like, no, come to the house. I'm like, see, auntie, it's all or nothing. You either take this, meet me at the mall parking lot, or you don't see me for the next like 3 days. So choose how you want to do this. She's like, okay, I'm coming. So I gave her family their gifts that day. I also gave my brother and his family a gift. My nephew was a couple of months at this time. He was May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. He was 7 months at this time. So I had a gift for him. I had a gift for my brother and his wife, a card. Yeah, so I made an effort to kind of do things that, I valued, even though I was in a lot of pain, but I still count it as a major breakthrough. So yes. Answer, I miss my dad. I missed my father at major milestones. When I got married, when I had my child, when I had to make critical decisions, which is a lot, or manage situations, particularly with people older than I am. I've had to do that a bit in my life because, of course, my family situation and the work I also used to do. Challenging when I've maybe had a challenging boss, or how to. My father had a very interesting way of getting around these things. He had such a very calm wisdom about him, very calm, very. No one would describe my father as being, talkative. No, he was very reserved, very quiet. But he had a way with people that just endeared them to him. So no matter how difficult a person is, my father would still be friends with them. I never knew how he did it. So yes, I would say those, were major times I missed my father. My mom is an everyday business, every single day. For the longest time, I used to wear a bracelet she had. I wore that bracelet every day up until last month when it broke. And when it broke, I smiled. In fact, another friend of mine, I had gone for an event out of Lagos with my friends. And one of my friends was in the room, but I'm sure she didn't even know what was going on between me and my emotions at the time, because she was talking to me. I was responding. We're having a full-blown gist session, and my mind was processing. It was in a whole different place, but I was still, yeah, absolutely, I mean, yeah. So it broke, and I smiled, and I got up, and she was like, "Oh, your bracelet just broke." I'm like, "Yeah, stuff to happen." Walked to the bin, and I put it in the bin. I smiled. I didn't cry. But I just felt like it was, and honestly, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but that's how I felt. It was, time to let it go. So yeah. Yeah, so I'm braceletless. Yeah, and worn it from when my mom passed in 2016 up until last month. So almost 5 years.
You said something about not allowing your emotions get the best of you in Christmas of 2016.
Yeah.
So you made an effort to do the things that you valued rather than how you feel.
Yeah.
You tell me about another time following both your parents passing that was really hard, but you had to follow your values rather than your feelings.
Oh, that's every Christmas. That's not another time. And even today, actually. So my mom's anniversary is my mom passed 21st August, and my mother-in-law's birthday is the 22nd. So every year, pretty much, every year, we go to my parents-in-laws for Christmas, for my mother-in-law's birthday and Christmas. So both days are touchy days. It's the day, like, for example, today is exactly like Sunday, and I spent most of my day at my mother-in-law's. And then every Christmas, so pretty much those are times when I have chosen what is important to me rather than just how I feel. And as the years have gone by, I feel my feelings, but I don't allow them determine my responses. So I think Christmas last year, 2020, it's been a while. So I've got help, not like formal a therapist, but I've had a lot of people around me who have helped me walk through my emotions. And I would like to say at this point, I believe very strongly that talk is therapy. So for me, it works differently for different people. For me, speaking it is therapeutic because my natural response to challenging situations is to keep it all in, right? For example, last Christmas, some days leading up to Christmas, I heard God say to me, joy is a choice. Joy, not once. And so I journal a lot. I won't even say I try, no. Like, I journal. Let's just leave it that way. And I wrote that down. And I started to do a study on joy. So what I tend to do is God says something to me. I try not to assume that I get everything he's saying because one sentence can be a whole book. So I try to press further in to say, Lord, what are you really saying to me? I hear you, but what, it's like a suitcase. It's called joy. But when I open it up, there are a whole gamut of things inside it. So I started doing a study on joy. I probably did 2 or 3 maybe. But I then, said to myself, joy is a choice. And I choose joy. I don't choose it because I don't miss my parents. No, I choose joy. I choose to process my life I don't know if this was not last year. I think it was 2019. I choose to process my life from the posture of joy. There are many things to be thankful for. And in fact, let me say maybe that line. Joy is not just Thanksgiving, right? Joy is a spirit. Joy is an offshoot of the presence of God. The Bible already tells us that in the presence of God, there is fullness of joy, not joy in small measure, not periodic joy, no. And so that season, I chose to immerse myself in God. I would say I practice cultivating the spirit, the presence of God. So intentionally, I want to know that I know that God is with me. I'm a Christian, but like I can feel God. I don't know how to explain it to anyone who doesn't understand what I'm saying, because for me, God is not an option, right? He's everything. Every single thing I am, have, will be, or will ever have is sourced and distilled from my identity as a child of God. So there's that. And then, just knowing that has also helped me So, for example, yesterday, I chose to do things that I love, things that mean things to me. Whereas just staying and bemoaning. And yesterday morning, my husband and I, bless him, had a chat, and he was just asking how I was feeling. I would say at this point that we've been married 3 years, and of course, it wasn't always this easy for someone to say how you feeling, and I would tell you how I'm feeling. My default answer is fine. And if you dare, because you have to dare to ask me any further questions, you must be flipping not all right. You had better take that fine and run with it like you've received the Olympic torch and continue to go forward. Don't try to unpack my fine. Don't do that. Yeah. But, we had the chat, very easy chat. And I said, I woke up that morning and I was asking myself, how do I feel? And I felt grateful. I was grateful for the legacy of my mother. As I get older, as I've gotten older, and as I've learned to really, truly process my emotions, allow God heal me, and seek help where I need, I have become more grateful for my upbringing. I've become more grateful for the parents I had. I've become more grateful for the moments I had them. Because people would live 50 years as adults and have their parents for 50 years and not even have the kind of connection that my parents and I had for those years that I had them. So I feel honestly truly blessed that I had my mom for those years that I did. I had my dad for the years I did. I had a lifetime with them. So yeah, I truly, it's important that, when you're dealing with grief, and I'm not even going to say in the first year and second year, you need to, time doesn't heal. We're told time will heal, it will get better. It's a lie. It is what you do in the time that heals. Because if you have a wound physically, like you have a scar on your palm, it may, as time goes on, it will not look like, red and gory and bloody the first day it happened. But if another thing does fall near that wound, the way to open Yakata, like, didn't you heal before? Like, it would seem like it never healed, and it would tend to have more, there will be more drama around it healing. That's exactly the way our emotions work. When we don't, allow ourselves walk with God, and people like Fumi, and this is not a paid anything. I'm just being very honest, right? But you don't get the help and support that you need. It's similar. It's akin to that. It's like a wound that if you don't process, if you don't allow truly heal, there's healing and there's wholeness, right? It tends to be just a ishuatayonyo. I don't know how to say it in English.
You have to try.
Yam and pepper don't mix. So in Nigeria, we have this amazing meal called yam porridge. For our Nigerian listeners, asaro. And I like food. I should say up front, I like good food. So you can just bear with my food analogies. So we make yam, we put some palm oil, and we mix it all together. But see, when it's not cooked properly, the ingredients, exactly, the ingredients don't mix up nicely, which it should. So that's what I mean by the issue, the yam, the atta, the pepper. Because we're Africans, when we eat pepper, forget it. It doesn't mix well. So that's it. Things just seem out of place to be grammatically correct. Yeah. Thank you, Jesus. Okay.
What would you say to someone who has tragically lost a loved one And remember, we qualify a loved one to be anybody that you love at all. You are, I wouldn't call you a survivor. I mean, if we wanted to label, in the way of the world would say, oh, you're a grief survivor or a grief victor or something, but as one person who has experienced such a tragic and gory way of losing your parents, what would you say to somebody who has lost a loved one and is still struggling with the pain of losing that loved one?
It's okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to ask why. It is all okay. You are not crazy. Nothing is wrong with you. It is okay. It is fine. It is good. In fact, it is great. I would be worried if you didn't feel that way, right? So it's okay. First things first. Second, even if it has been 5 years, you need, even if it has been 10 years, you need help. You need to yourself be true. You need to ask yourself, how am I feeling? First, you need to ask yourself if you are ready. Because this work of healing from the loss of a loved one is not a one-day issue. It's not like malaria where you go to the hospital or any other illness and the doctor says take 2 in the morning, take 2 at night, and all of that. No, it's not. It's intentional, focused, vulnerable work. It's like you're saying, and this is an analogy I learned, I have learned over my own journey. I remember one time I felt like God was saying to me, show me your wound, strip, when you have an injury that hasn't healed and you take the bandage off or the plaster off, I say. First, you have the mark of the plaster that you see. Then if it's a cut, you have the site of the cut. If it was bloody before you cut it and it was still bleeding, you have the blood. Sorry for the very graphic, but you have the blood, mark, or you have a few stains. But exactly, as it is like that, don't try to clean it. Show everything, like take it off and say, this is it. God is not afraid. He doesn't go, oh wow, that's a lot. No, he doesn't. He's in fact he's like, oh yeah, bring it on. I love it. So I would say be vulnerable with God and with people. Of course, you can't go all around telling everybody your life story, right? But I believe strongly that you need people. I don't know how else to say this nicely. You need people. If people hurt you, you still need people to heal, right? I can say this now, but for the longest time, I avoided people because between my dad and my mom, and even after my mom, there are times when you expect folks to be there for you or just expect certain things from certain people, and then they leave you stunned, like, what's going on here? Kiri, what's this? And you're perplexed, you're confused, you're without words, you're just wondering, like, did I miss something? But that's fine. That's why they are people, right? It's okay. It's okay to feel they hurt you, and it's okay to let them go without them saying sorry. It's okay. Because you're not healing for them, you're healing for yourself. So let me try to rehash everything I've said. So number 1, it is okay. It's okay to feel your feelings. Number 2, be vulnerable. Number 3, you need people. People are an intricate part of your work of healing. It may be through a coach, it may be through a therapist, it may be through friends. Now, I'm also going to add that, for me, I've always been the strong friend. In some magical way, I don't know how, but I've always been that friend who people will come and tell me what's going on with them, and I will be there for them. But I did not know how to tell people what's going on with me. And I did not expect, in fact, I don't know if I didn't even know what it meant for people to be there for me. I don't know how to explain that. But you've convinced yourself that you can handle everything for so long. And it takes me again back to being vulnerable. You have to be vulnerable with God and with people, because the people you're vulnerable with are the safe spaces within which you can process what's going on with you. So, yeah, be vulnerable, people. I'm thankful for my friends. I'm thankful. Fumi knows some of them. I'm very thankful. In fact, my friends are, now that I say it out loud, my friends are a very safe space for me. When my dad passed, I actually did not cry till a certain friend of mine showed up. And she didn't show up that day or the next day. It took her a few days because she was out of Lagos. So of course she had to travel back and all of that. Till she showed up, I actually did not shed a tear, now that I think about it. So yeah, you need people to, Number 4, I've said be vulnerable, but you need people. Get help. Help can come in various forms. Help can come from God, right? But if you're not vulnerable, then the Bible says that in our weakness is His strength made perfect. So if you don't show you are weak, how are you going to get strength, right? Get help. If you need to talk to somebody, look, just get help. Because this thing is, I've lived most of my life in Nigeria. I'm a proper Lagos girl, all of that. No level of, there are some words I'm going to use. For me, you have to say the Oyibo version of shalaye. There's no level of shalaye that is going
explanation.
Okay. There's no level of, drama or acting up or doing or behaving in a certain way. You can only mask pain for a certain period of time, right? It will seep out. I think that's the word. It will seep out. It will seep out in many areas of your life that you yourself, you will wonder how. Someone random will even ask you, are you sure you're all right? Like, no offense, but you sure you're okay? So get help. No level of drama, no level of spirituality. Let me say that one. Can mask pain.
No, God, it is well.
So that's one of the words my friends do not use with me. It's a I don't want to say taboo, but no. It is not well. Let us stop it. No, don't do it. My friends, no. Don't, like, you call me and say, no, it is not well. Just tell me straight up what's going on. Don't tell me it is well. If it's well, we're not going to be having this conversation. So please, what's well? I know it's well. Do I look like I'm insane? Please don't do it. Let's just move on. My friends and I don't do it as well. We know that one. It's a code. Don't even try it, please. Okay, let's move on. Let me be better behaved.
You touched on something that leads me to my final question.
Yes.
You said it seeps into other areas of your life without even knowing it. Can we talk about just one example that you can think of where the fact that you hadn't yet gone through a healing process from this pain because you lost your parents? Can you give me an example of a time when it it showed up that it had seeped into an area of your life?
Oh, well, that's easy. In my relationship with people. So I blocked people out. Now, one of the things grief can do to you is make you feel alone, lonely. There may be 1,000 people around you. There may be people doting on you, but on the inside, you feel alone. You feel like you're in this big house. You're locked in. No one can enter. No one can. You cannot exit, and it's dark, and you're just sat alone in a chair. Yeah, so I mean, it just gives you that sense of being alone or being exposed. I mean, these are feelings I felt. I don't know what it is for everyone else, but I felt exposed. I felt like, so for the longest time, I would say I had a very protected upbringing. I mean, I interfaced with people, but my family was one that I had utmost love and validation. So even my nuances, so I the way I like things done, and it may not resonate with a lot of other people, I was told it was okay. I was comfortable being me. Nobody said, I mean, not like bad behavior. My mother was a teacher, so bad behavior is met with discipline, like no jokes. But just, so I'm very particular about certain things. So I love my spaces neat and tidy. Just different things like that. I was never made to feel like, oh, you are too much. Your own is too, so my family was a huge sense of support and everything for me. I mean, like if you came home in my household and you said you were tired of your job, my parents would sit down with you and have a chat. You talk about it, explain what your reasons are. And if it's logical, like, I mean, honestly, they would actually say, yeah, I think you should find another job. And if it's not, my parents would be very, I think you're really being spoiled. And the question is, what you're here to learn, what you enter that organization to achieve, have you achieved it? And if you haven't, what's your next? Like, it's a conversation, but it's not, are you out of your mind? No, you can't do that. No, it's not met with aggression. It's meant with, come, let's discuss, let's understand, and let's support you through the process. Or you want to start a business, I mean, like I said, my brother and I both did business in uni. My parents were initial investors, right? At some point, my mom would even collect orders for my brother's business. She was the stopgap between production and front end, So yeah, we had that much support. So losing my parents, I felt exposed. I felt like, yay, my goodness, the whole world was going to then see me for all these things, how I didn't fit in, and everybody was going to see it. It was going to be out in the open on display, and I was going to be judged and ridiculed for my
quirkiness.
Exactly. So yeah, I would say that's how I felt losing my parents. There was a huge sense of loneliness, a huge sense of just really, I would say, loneliness. I felt really lonely, and it wasn't about people. There are people that, in fact, at some point, I even changed my phone number because I didn't want people calling me. So if it did have, like, I wanted to be, I know it sounds ironic, I felt alone, but I wanted to be left alone. It doesn't make sense, right? But again, I didn't feel safe with people, right? So my response to it was to be alone. If someone did something where I felt hurt, I won't quarrel. I do not like, I feel that I have interesting thoughts around certain things. So for example, confrontation, I don't find it as a good use of my time and energy. Smart. And this is something I've said from when I was a teenager. It leaves me exhausted. So why will I do it? Right? So you know how with people, they say one, you say the other. I'm just, no. So since you don't understand me, even though in reality that exchange could be to achieve understanding, my brain processed it as, you know what, I'm not going to engage. So I was unreachable. I mean, there are people who see me and go, "You're still in Nigeria, for real? Like, you are alive? We thought you were under." Like, no. I mean, at some point, nobody, even my friends, didn't know where I lived. So, like, I was physically present, but I was emotionally absent. That would be how I would say it. So my people relationships were badly affected. I wouldn't say I'm like I have it all sorted, like snaps, I'm back on the roll. No, I wouldn't say that. But I'm work in progress. I've made significant improvement from where I'm coming from. So that's one way. And of course, with that, people at church, that one's a whole different ballgame, because again, I stayed out of church for a while. Work, I never formed deep connections. You can call me, I'm resigning, okay. You resign, you reach out, okay. How are you? Fine, bye. So I barely ever formed deep connections, barely ever. I've talked about church. I did not even put myself in to like volunteer in church groups or anything like that. No, I never did that, because it means I'm giving you an opportunity to even get closer. No. So in the times I would go to church, I would make sure I go to a church that is really big, so you don't notice me in any way. To church, work, even my friendships, right? Like I said, I was emotionally unavailable. You couldn't find me. I had left the building. So that's one way.
Can you disclose what led to a breakthrough in your romantic relationship? Because you're married now, and I would love to believe that you and your husband have an intimate relationship where you are present. You have not left the building with your husband.
No, I'm in the shop. We both have the key to the shop. In fact, it's my partner.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I mean, I know this, everyone across the world will be listening to this, but forgive me, I'm Igbo, and my tribe, we're very entrepreneurial. We have small businesses. And so when I say shop, typical Nigerians, Nigerians will get the whole joke, but no offense.
What you mean, you're present, you're around.
You're absolutely present. I'm fully body, soul, spirit, emotions, will, intellect in the building. What led to a turnaround in my romantic relationship? God, I won't lie to you. I met my husband at a time when I was not searching. In fact, to be honest, even on the subject of marriage, I had never been searching. Because in my household, I never knew what it went to. When people say they have pressure to get married, I never knew what it was like. No, I never experienced it. Rather, my mom would, maybe if I go for a friend's wedding, there was this year that I think it was 2015, I had come back home from masters. A number of my friends were getting married, 2015 to 2016 to early 2016, and my mom asked me how I was feeling. Like, you're either on one person's bridal train or you're saving money to buy a shrebi, which I don't wear. I don't think I even bought any ashrebi, or I'm saving money to buy a wedding gift for a friend, or I want to do this for a friend. And she's like, how do you feel? And I remember saying to her, fine, I don't feel any way. Like, I feel it's normal. It's just like my friend's having her birthday, I show up, I celebrate with her, and I move on. That's what, it's not my birthday. When my birthday comes, she'll celebrate with me. Like, it's that simple, right? So I didn't have any pressure. My mother and I had very open conversations about, it wasn't always that way, but I mean, as time went on, we were beyond mother and child, where we had become two women going through life together, and we had become two friends. And like I said, my mother was a force. My mother was many things to me. My mother was my pastor. My mother was my teacher. My mother was my role model. My mother was my teacher, including drawing my ear, which is, so I would pair that with trainer. My mother was many things. So I could tell her, I met this guy, but honestly, I don't have any feelings towards him. Yes, he's all around, trying to dance around me, but I don't feel anything. And she's like, that's not normal, my child. I'm like, yeah, but we all know I'm not normal. So why do we have to? It's no more. It's not news. It's history. Can we move on? Yeah. So we could have those kind of conversations. At the point my mom passed, I was cold on the inside. I didn't have. I remember saying to my husband, well, not long after we met. So when we met, it was very random. I met him at the information stand at my church. Like, it couldn't be a more random day. I went to ask for a certain information. He came to submit a report. Very random. And unfortunately, I can't say I was pleasant. But let's move on from that. Again, it was a tricky season. So I met my husband in the same month that I had to clear out my mom's wardrobe. So I had to literally pack up all her things and give it away. And that was, it just had a sense of, this is
the end, finality.
The end. Exactly. It was such a sense of finality too. I was very raw emotionally. And that was when I met him. Again, it was just a random meeting, nothing fancy around it. So if I say the journey towards, from meeting him to marriage and to the 3 years we've been married, I would say a lot on his end, bless him, a lot of kindness. A lot of kindness. A lot of kindness. I think, so first I mentioned God already. God has literally handheld me through this. There are times when I react in a certain way. I don't say respond, because that involves thought process. I react, meaning just my emotions are acting out. My emotions are the one acting, but my body is the puppet dancing. But it's not the other way around. It's not logic driving it, it's just feelings. And God literally says, child, that was bad behavior. You need to go back. And I apologize. And then I start to see, how do I get past this? Because I know, like, there's no point. I'm vulnerable. I'm truly, truly vulnerable. Like, there are times when my morning devotion involves me just crying. And we've had a full conversation. I don't have to use any words. So yeah, God, I'm talking to people. I have learned. So I have friends, my peers, and I have a father figure and some other older people, older people who I have no doubt God led me to, or God brought into my life. So just talking through certain things with them have also helped me, come thus far. For my husband's end, there's been a lot of kindness and understanding and patience. I would also say that we had a fantastic time at marriage counseling, which really helped us, because, so I talked about, a father figure, and I reference him because he's a pastor at my church, at my local church, and he happened to be my wedding counselor. So I had been talking with him, about stuff that had happened in my life, and then when we got assigned the counselor, it was him. So it was easy to unpack. And again, because he knew where I was coming from to an extent, it was also easy for him to call me out on bad behavior and say, you cannot do this. It is not okay. Or highlight and say, this is an area you need to deal with, and it is not your husband's job to help you through it. You need to own it and you need to deal with it. And sometimes it would include him giving me activities or saying things like, go and think about this. Write down in clear, in fact, at some point, he would say in not less than a page. Like, God, write it down for me. Like he drew it out of me. Like, I will not allow you stay here. That kind of, help and support. So yeah, that's how. Of course, there's also me. At some point, like I said, I had to ask myself, what life do I want to live? Do I want to live, or do I want to have a shadow of my life? I wanted to live. Lois, my mother, and my father, Celestine, had lived. They lived every second of their lives so intentionally. Maybe not every second, but a large part of their lives ever so intentionally. And blessed, they had died. And I was going to live. I used to say to my friend, one of my friends, no, this is a different friend than the ones I've mentioned, Nora. And I used to say we used to go to work together at a season, in a particular, for a couple of months, we worked in the same place. And I used to say to her, when I'm done living, life is going to be like, life will put its finger in its mouth and go, smack! She lived me. She dealt with me. And, I used to say those words, not precisely because I had it all figured out, but saying those words to her were also a reminder to myself about how I was going to live. I was poised to live every second as beautiful as possible. It also made me, so in retrospect, like after that point, I became I would wake up randomly and say to my husband, I love you. Not because, I'm feeling all butterflies in my belly, no. But because, like I said, every single moment, I don't leave time to chance. Is that correct grammar? Yes. I don't leave time to chance. If, like, for my friends, if you do something and I appreciate it, I'm going to reach out and say, thank you for this, blah, blah, blah. You made me feel this way. Thank you. I appreciate you. What's going on with you? So I'm so intentional about the people in my space and the life I have now. And again, even in my faith with God. So I'm not like, and it's not about, I read my Bible 5 times a day. I pray, no, it's an intimate relationship with God, knowing that God is my Father. And that word doesn't mean, just biological father. So if, you have an earthly father, you will bear his last name. No. If you look at the meaning of that word in a dictionary, there are many meanings, but there's one that stands out always to me, which is source. So God is the source of my life. I say that God is the river from which I am fetched. So he's my point of origin. And so I'm intentional about how I cultivate my relationship with God, how I cultivate my relationship with my spouse, how I parent my child, how I reach out to my friends, because I don't want you to ever be in doubt how special you are to me. No, I want everyone in my life to wake up, if possible, every day, knowing that even if the whole world is going crazy, they are important to me. They matter. I see them and I love them. And that really is the life I want to live. I think back on my mother. Lois wasn't the wealthiest woman on earth. Like, she didn't have a ton of money in her bank account when she passed. But she had a legacy of love in people's hearts. My goodness. I don't know how she did it. And we had to have 2 services of songs for my mother. Long story. But at one of them, someone said to me, the person introduced themselves and said, it's not possible that you know me because your mother was pregnant with you when she taught me. I was 20. I was in my mid-20s when my mother died. That teacher must have made such an impact in your life for over 25 years after you actually hear the person passes and you make an effort to be there. You have like serious impression. So yeah, and I realized that I wanted that. I wanted to be reaching people. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chimamaka. It has been an amazing 90 minutes or so with you. I'm excited about the work both of us are doing in order to lead 14 or so people down this journey of healing from the loss of a loved one.
Yes.
Spoke very detailed about the things that have helped you, which include being vulnerable, not closing off from people, seeking help, being willing to do the work.
Yeah.
This father figure that gave you assignments. And that just reminds me of the amount of work and assignment that the people who are going to join us will also be doing. Would you be able to wrap up our conversation today with one or two words to that person who is hurting and is listening and is considering joining us on this soul coaching journey that will take place between September and November of 2021?
Okay. First, I will say you are loved. Dear person listening, you are loved. You are valued. You are enough. You are not your pain. That would be the first thing I would say to that person. Second thing I would say is, I don't know who you lost. I don't know the peculiarities around, what happened. But I know that the plans God has for you are plans of good, to give you a future and a hope. And you have to be whole to step into it. So please reach out. Don't go this journey alone. Please see the forum, listen to the podcast, engage with, the program that we have coming up, and do the work. The future ahead of you is way brighter than here. Don't settle for here. Let the future that you imagine is possible, or that you once imagined was possible, it is still possible. Because I know you may feel at this time that all hope is lost. It's no more attainable. That future you once imagined is no more attainable, but it is. It still is. So it still is. Don't give up hope. It still is. You can still get there. This is not even, I wouldn't say it's a challenge. No, it's not. It's a beautiful experience. I know that sounds contradictory, talking about grief, but you're going to come out of this as gold, truly. So reach out, do the work, sign up for this program. No jokes. I have listened to Fumi speak before LBC, two programs then, and then once at a conference. Fumi knows her stuff. I mean, I've heard a lot of people speak about grief from my own experience, almost 10 years now. But Fumi knows her stuff. She knows what she's talking about. And she does it, like I said at the beginning, she does it with so much empathy. And I know that for a lot of people who are dealing with grief, you do not want pity, because it's different. But Fumi does this with empathy, with compassion. And she's one person you would want to help you out on this journey. So sign up. Yeah.
And just to add that, Fumi is doing it with you, Chimamaka.
Yes, I am doing this with Fumi. My goodness. I'm stewarding everything that God has helped me through. And if my pain, my healing, and my journey can help someone, I mean, if it helps someone, then it makes sense, right? It makes sense. I wouldn't have it any other way than share my life with someone, because it can bring you healing and health and wholeness. Absolutely. So that's why I'm doing this with Fumi. I believe in her. Our values align. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Chimamaka.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's been golden talking and listening to you. I'm excited in advance at the people, the lives that will be changed and healed through this course.
Amen.
I look forward to it. So, guys, that's the end of our podcast, part 2 of our podcast, and I look forward to having some of you in the group soul coaching course, Healing from the Loss of a Loved One. Take care. Thank you. And God bless.
Bless. Bye for now.
Bye for now.